Most of us have probably entertained the idea or even had a conversation about who would play us in a movie or television show if one was ever made about us. And we've probably thought about that in glamorous tones, right? Like, would we even recognize these people physically? Because we've seen shows, we've seen movies made about people, and we hold them up to the light of photographic evidence, and we say sometimes to ourselves, these two don't even look alike. Sometimes they don't even act alike. But who would play us? Would they get it accurately? And would we even recognize them? So first of all, let me ask you, have you ever been likened physically unto a celebrity? I mean, if you have, put it down below in the comments. But I have been, but mainly only one person. Over the years, I've been likened unto Billy Zane. I think we're roughly the same age, and even back during the days when he played in Titanic, when he had hair and a clean-shaven face, likewise, I did also. And we even resembled each other back then. And then even I had shaved my head years later, and at some point he started shaving his head, and he gained some weight, and we still looked very similar. And over the years on social media and among my friends, they've said that I look like Billy Zane. So my guess is that if anybody was to play me in a movie, I guess it might be Billy Zane. I could at least be his stunt double. But not only do I wonder, would I recognize myself physically on the screen? I wonder if I would recognize myself characteristically on the screen. Would people get it right? And the scary thing is, I wonder if they would get it right and I still wouldn't recognize it. Because I'm not so sure that we know ourselves as well as we think we do. There is the image we have of ourselves, and then there's the image that everybody else has of us. And then there's the image that someone might be willing to portray on the silver screen, right? So there's all sorts of different perceptions out there. And a lot of the time, that's what we are trying to do in our personal lives, is peddle a perception of us. We have an image of ourselves in our head, and that's good, because you always want to be striving to do better. You always want to have a goal in mind of what kind of person you want to be. But perhaps we are convincing ourselves sometimes of something other than what is the truth. And we would only hope that that could be emulated by somebody if they ever decided to portray us. Now, you might think that's a very far-fetched proposition. But the truth of the matter is, people are always emulating each other, right? We're always trying to figure out life. We're always trying to figure out how to navigate difficulties and circumstances. So we look to the people around us and we try to see how they've done it. We try to assess whether it's worked for them or not. And then we imitate them. We emulate them. And maybe not in everything, but then we have our heroes. We have the people that we respect. And then a lot of times we see them as some kind of a goalpost, and we want to kind of imitate our way into that. And growing up, I had certain heroes. I've talked about this before in a video about heroes. You can go back and watch it. Growing up, I watched, when I was a kid, I watched The Wild Wild West. It was my favorite show. I loved Robert Conrad as James West. I thought he was a quintessential man. He was kind of like the James Bond of the Old West. He was in great shape. He was good looking. The women loved him, and he could get just about any woman he wanted, and I wanted to be that guy. And in my mind, I would imitate him. I would think about how he would handle certain situations. This is a very immature mindset, mind you. But that's what we do, and that's what I try to do. And in some ways, it does shape the people that we eventually become. But who is watching you? Who is emulating you? And this is something you have to think very long and hard about, because many people live as if they don't care what other people think about them and how other people may imitate them. Very young people will imitate the adults they have in their life because they are trying to figure out how to handle life. They are looking at you. And if you don't handle things well, if you are easily given over to anger, impatience, and cruelty, then they may end up becoming that way too, because if they think that's working for you, they will do that. And you may be the inspiration for what they don't want to become. But you know, we like to think that people perceive of us in a certain way, and we try to put certain aspects of our personalities into cubby holes. We only do what we think we can get away with around certain people, right? You do what you do around your family. You may behave a certain way, a different way around your friends, or in a different social gathering, perhaps at church or at an event, or wherever you might find yourself. You may behave certain ways, different ways, for different reasons. And it doesn't mean you're not necessarily genuine, but we show different sides of ourselves based on what we think that we can get away with, what we think that we can use to our advantage, and how we can leverage ourselves in social situations. But how would that play out? I mean, think about it, really. How would that play out? What's the most that people would see if they need to glean information from your life to be able to display in a movie? What would they see the most? And what would you hope that they would act out? And this is what we really need to consider, because I don't think that we think as many people see us as what they as they really do. I'm not sure if I said that right. We have in our mind that there's only a certain amount of people that we're exposed to that we need to kind of keep in control. You know, we can kind of keep the perception that people have of us in control by the amount of people we have in our lives that orbit our lives. But more people see us than what you realize. People make first impressions. If you could be walking through a grocery store parking lot and someone sees you, and they may admire you, the way you dress, the way you walk, your posture, and they may take mental notes on you. And believe it or not, people make minor adjustments in their own personalities and the way they do things, the way they conduct themselves, based on bits and pieces of information that they pick up in the world around them. And so it's very important to really think about, you can't become over concerned about what everybody thinks. I don't want to convey that, but what I do want to convey is that you do have a responsibility. You can't live for everybody else, but you do have a responsibility to live responsibly. That if someone else, but something, you know, here's a question that was asked of me years ago. If everyone lived and behaved just like you, which is totally hypothetical, it's not even possible, but if everybody lived and behaved just like you, what would this world look like? And so that's taking it a bit far in this video, but if the people in your life were truly influenced by your character and by your behavior, and in some way altered the way they conduct themselves, what would they look like? And getting back down to the roots of this video, would you recognize yourself if you were portrayed by a celebrity in the movies? Would you be pleased with that? Now, obviously, there's creative liberty, so I'm just trying to entertain an idea. It's not to be taken too seriously, but it just comes. These are just thoughts I have that stem from what Ted Danson said. He goes, "Acting was a perfect outlet for a guy like me who's always wondering what it's like to be you." Are you the kind of person that you could be proud of a portrayal of you based on the sum of information that people would glean by their observance of you? That's basically it. It might have been a little long-winded, but I hope not. I hope that makes you think. I hope it challenged you for the day. Guys, have a great day. Hurricane Dorian is bearing down upon us here, and I hope that it dissipates to some degree, because I really don't want to have to deal with it. I work for a utilities company, and this becomes a matter of 16-hour days for several weeks on end, maybe 3-4 weeks on end, of dealing with nagging, griping, whining, complaining people, who then afterwards, when they get what they want, see you as a hero. So maybe that's portrayal that I would want on the silver screen. So anyway, guys, I got to get going. I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.